Oh yeah, happy Monday to my MMA community. Y'all know what it is. We got some shit to talk about in this weekend recap. I thought we was done with the weight cutting fiasco, but apparently not. We're gonna talk about that a little later in this video because it involves everybody's superstar, everybody's favorite villain. I guess you can say villain because the nigga's that damn good, but he's knocking out all our fan favorites. Ilya Taporia, we gotta talk about him a little later in this video, along with Kamzat again. But before we even get there, gotta talk about what happened this past weekend with Song Yadong and them. Y'all know what it is, the matchmaking segment of the video. But yeah. So I guess I'm moving up in the world because I guess you could say I got my first troll or whatever, but you know, I welcome it all. I welcome all comments, all criticism, all feedback. You know, I welcome them all on this channel, you know. Speak y'all mind. That's, you know, I'm not the one to say y'all right or wrong or whatever. Look, if I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong. But speak y'all mind in the comments. I need to see more comment feedback, you know. See some more feedback in the comments, whatever. But, yeah. Song Yadong. Hey. Y'all can say what y'all want. Especially to my mans in the comments talking about I was coping and shit. Look, do I fuck with Figgy? Yes, I fuck with Figgy. But I know what Figgy is at this point. Oh shit, my damn slipper about to go away in the damn water. But yeah, I know what Figgy is at this point. And while I was like, you know what, maybe he could rewind the clock back and get back to prime Figgy, but stylistically I just didn't see it happen against Song Yadong. And like I predicted, Song Yadong was gonna win the fight. That's exactly what he did. So on to Song Yadong. Walking in the water. By the way, look pretty nice out here. If y'all can see. Pretty nice out here. But Song Yadong. So I took a look at the rankings a little bit this morning, and I did have. Now I will say this. I'm kind of torn because I need to see that Sugar Sean O'Malley. And by the way, shout out Sugar Sean. I got his merch on. Y'all see it. It's on my profile picture of that YouTube channel. I need to see that Sugar Sean and Corey Sandhagen matchup. I need to see it. To be quite honest, we probably won't even get to see it or, you know, till UFC 6 drop. You know what I mean? Especially, you know, you play online, whatever. Y'all niggas probably gonna get that matchup playing online on UFC 6. But I need to see the Sugar Sean and Corey Sandhagen matchup. But I'm torn because logically, looking at this shit now, is this same? Yeah, all that is same. Looking at what Song Yadong did this past weekend against Figgy, so not only do he keep his top 5 ranking, but as a matter of fact, this is going to tie in to the Umar news because we got some fight news to drop. Umar Nurmagomedov, he's facing David Martinez on the July fight night card with Khalil Roundtree and Megan Ungalev. So I'm pretty sure that's the main event, and Umar and David Martinez the co-main event. You can go a lot of ways with Song Yadong at this point, for real, because like I said, I'm kind of torn because I want the Sugar Sean and Corey Sandhagen matchup if they respectively win their matches. But for Song Yadong, what he did against Figgy, you can either go Song Yadong. This is how I think they're gonna go. You can go Song Yadong against the winner of Sugar Sean and Amit Zabit. Or, and I know what he said, and I'm gonna put the picture as a thumbnail of this video because he wants Petrion. But truth be told, You know what? Now I think about it. Because they're going to run the rematch back. Petrion and Merab, they're going to run the rematch back. It's not really confirmed just yet, but that's the direction they're going in. They're just waiting for Petrion to get healthy. They could run that rematch back, but it's a lot of variables, bro. It's, to be quite honest, it's a lot of it. We might turn this into a whole bantamweight talk video, because out of all the niggas that Petrion faced, Umar Nurmagomedov is a fresh new face for Petrion. I'm hoping my phone will get too hot being out here, but Umar Nurmagomedov is a new face that Petrion hasn't faced. So while Petrion faced Sugar Sean, he faced Sung Yadong already, he faced Merab and rematching Merab. I mean, not rematching Merab, they about to run the trilogy. Umar, if he was to beat David Martinez, I can see, especially if Petrion beats Merab in the trilogy, or Merab gets the title back, I can see Umar Nurmagomedov getting a shot before Sung Yadong. So with that in mind, you could go a lot of ways with this shit. With that in mind, either give Sung Yadong the winner of Sugar Sean and Amit Zabit, or you can do Corey Sandhagen and the winner of Corey Sandhagen and Mario Batista. You can go. That's really only two options. Now I know what he said. He wants, he wants to get he wants that rematch against Petrion for the title, and it is possible, but I think they're not going to give it to him just yet. I don't see how they're going to give it to him with. He's probably in that stage where he needs one more fight and then a title shot, or he's in that title eliminator stage where his next fight is going to be a title eliminator number one contendership fight. Hold on, let me get my slipper back before this shit go in the damn water. Cause now I'm thinking about it as I'm talking right now. Cause Umar Nurmagomedov, if he was to get through David now, what completely changed? I will say this: what can completely change the complexity of the bantamweight title picture if David Martinez ended up upsetting Umar Nurmagomedov and beat him? Because then he's gonna be on some Michael Morales, Ian Garrett type shit. Because David Martinez is like ranked number 10, and Umar is still ranked 2nd. So, to be quite honest, if we really thinking about it at this moment, everything is on David Martinez. Because whether, Umar wins or not, I feel like Umar and potentially Sugar Sean is going to get the shot before Sung Yadong. So everything really lays in the balance of David Martinez if you really think about it. If he was to upset Umar Nurmagomedov, that might be Sung Yadong's best hope. I think Sung Yadong, now he's on the right path because he, man, this shit feel like damn quicksand up this motherfucker. Sung Yadong, he's holding up his end of the bargain, beating Figgy. But I think he's battling against, the people that's just a better star to him, as you can say. What the fuck is that? But yeah, bantamweight, hey, you know what though? I keep saying it. I've been saying it the past couple of videos. Bantamweight is shaping up pretty nice, bro. It's shaping up pretty nice. Now we just got to get these niggas to, hopefully nobody else get hurt. And we just keep this shit going. Because bantamweight, with each and every fight booking, bantamweight looking pretty dope. But, yeah, Figgy, And, you know, shout out to the nigga in the comments, bruh. Troll or not, no, Figgy should not retire. I mean, at this point, like I've been saying, if y'all been paying attention to what I've been saying, look at the rankings as it's currently structured. I don't think Figgy can beat. And yes, I am a fan of Figgy, but what I always say in my videos, I do support some of these fighters, but at the end of the day, I love the sport as a whole. So I can be more realistic with expectations and analysis than as if I was just a standard fanboy. You know what I mean? And I've stated on multiple occasions, yes, I do fuck with Figgy, but when you look at it on a stylistic, analytical stance, I just don't see how Figgy can beat that last. If go in the rankings right now and look at the last half of the bantamweight rankings, and you tell me which fighter can Figgy beat. Because I mean, we can go down to like Peyton Talbot, even somebody like David Martinez, even though he's fighting Umar. You know, Peyton Talbot, David Martinez, Raoni Barcelonas. You know, bantamweight, bro. Bantamweight is getting fucking crazy, bro. That last half ain't no fucking joke. Then you still got somebody like I don't think Marcus McGee. I don't remember seeing Marcus McGee on the rankings, but you still got somebody like Marcus McGee who's, yeah, he lost to Petroyan, but this nigga Marcus McGee is pretty solid. And with Figgy's current state, somebody like Marcus McGee will still end up beating Figgy. So and it's crazy because featherweight is just as loaded, bro. Because featherweight is another one of these divisions where it's a mixture, it's a good mixture. Honestly, you can say that about majority of these weight classes other than damn heavyweight. But it's a good mixture balance between the new guard, the old guard, and the current guard. So, I mean, I can see why. I mean, Troll or not, I keep forgetting your name. Troll or not, I mean, I understand why you say Figgy should retire, but I mean, because it ain't looking too good for Figgy, honestly. If you look at both sides of the coin, it ain't looking too good for him. Because bantamweight, I feel like he can't beat the last half of bantamweight. If he goes back to flyweight is much more stacked and loaded than during the time when he was battling Brandon Moreno. And plus, even though flyweight, I still think he has the power to put some of these niggas' lights out. He's draining his body at flyweight. He barely can maintain fucking bantamweight. And featherweight, I feel like his body wouldn't be at a disadvantage. But featherweight is fucking crazy right now, bro. Especially with all the new niggas coming in. Never mind like the current and new guard, the current and old guard. Nigga, the new guard with the future featherweight is rising through the rankings, and they's not here to fuck around. So I would say just go up to featherweight, but I mean, stylistically, it ain't looking too good for him at featherweight either. You know what I mean? But I mean, it is what it is, bro. It is what it is with Figgy. I mean, if he want to continue fighting, he can continue fighting. I don't think that he could ever get back to his title ways at this point. But you know, I still want to see him. I still want to watch him fight. Now, Sergey Pav, going to the heavyweight for a minute. Sergey Pav, he's not getting the title, bro. He's not getting no damn title shot. The only way is he getting the title shot is if Tom Aspinall, he just leave the UFC. Nobody else is getting the title shot other than Alex Pereira and Cyril Gane, bro. When it's going to be Alex Pereira and Cyril Gane, the winner of that would face Tom Aspinall whenever he gets back. That, I mean, there's no other way around it. But Sergey, it's real clear cut and simple for Sergey Pav. And that's either he could convince the UFC to wait it out to get the winner of those matchups, or if he don't want to wait it out, he just fight Alexander Volkov. I mean, it's pretty much clear cut, simple for Sergey Pav. It's just the fight Alexander Volkov, and that could be the title eliminator fight for the winner of Alex Pereira, Cyril Gane versus Tom Aspinall. It's clear cut. There's no other, no other options, no other debate. That's it. So that's how I see it. Now, it could be a situation, like I said on the review show, and in days leading up, we could have a situation where Tom may not be back in time, and one of these niggas, Alex Pereira or Cyril Gane, has to defend the interim belt for whatever reason, and then Sergey Pav might end up getting that shot. But you still got Alexander Volkov right there. You got Alexander Volkov sitting right there, coming off a recent win. So it makes justifiable sense just for these two niggas to fight it out while they settled out Alex Pereira, Cyril Gane, and Tom Aspinall situation. So that's pretty much it. But yeah, that's pretty much it for matchmaking for real. Now we get to the weight cutting situation. Oh man. So TJ Dillashaw, and I might be jumping all over the place with this, or you know what, I'm gonna transition to Ilya Taporia. So TJ just spoke out, and shout out to the Jackson podcast. Y'all know I'm also a motocross fan, so you know they sponsored Hunter Lawrence, Jet Lawrence, the Lawrence brothers. Shout out to them. They did their thing at Paula Fox Raceway. But TJ Dillashaw, all them niggas over there at Jackson podcast, TJ Dillashaw, Khalil Roundtree, Luke Rockhold, and them. TJ spoke about Cam Zat, and Cam Zat it's not funny, but it's like, how many times we're gonna go through this with Cam Zat? You know, no disrespect. As me, as a Cam Zat fan, it's like, come on, man. At some point, we got to be smarter. You know what I mean? Like I said, I might be a fan of these niggas, but at the same time, I'm a fan of the sport, so anybody can get the criticism if it's warranted. Cam Zat got to be smarter, but TJ said that Cam Zat almost died during the weight cut, and he was begging or pleading or was getting ready to pay Sean Strickland $1 million to cancel the fight. Now, I don't know how true that is, because sometimes TJ be talking just to talk, and I fuck with TJ Dillashaw. He just be talking just to be talking sometimes. But if it is true, right, and, you know, me on the outside looking in, I only can go off what TJ says, even though I know TJ be exaggerating sometimes. At what point do the fighters still got to be smart? Because if Cam Zat, and I know how the UFC is, bro. I know how the UFC is, but they only like that with certain fighters, like, because was it Julia Robinson? She spoke about it before, and a couple other UFC fighters have spoke about it before, where the UFC made them fight hurt, because if they didn't, they would get released from their contract, whatever. So, especially when you're like one of these fighters where you're not really a top 5 or top 10 type caliber fighter, and you're nearing the end of your contract, that's more leverage to them. So like, look, you already on bullshit mode, so we're gonna make you do A, B, C, and D because you have no choice. You know what I mean? And so Julian Robinson and a couple other UFC fighters, they spoke about it before, where UFC has made them fight hurt. You know, when they weren't medically cleared, they made them fight anyway. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't do that with something, and this is why I said they're selective when who they want to do it with, because the same criticism Dana and crew give some fighters, they wouldn't even do that with Conor McGregor. You know, I'm pretty sure they would not do that with Cam Zat. If Cam Zat is going to have to take some public backlash. He's going to have to take some public heat, you know, from the fans saying, you know, he's scared of Sean Strickland, this and that. He's going to have to take a public tongue lashing from the fans. But the UFC would still probably take care of somebody like Cam Zat. They would still take care of somebody like Khamzat. So and granted, we saw what happened in the fight. You know, it is what it is. You know, if Khamzat was struggling that fucking much, they should have just called the fight. You know, they should have just canceled and rebooked the fight. Now, I did talk about this because what his brother said. I feel like it's a two-way street. You know, Khamzat he's at fault for not being smart about his shit. Even if the UFC did promise him one thing and they reneged on it. And the UFC, you know, especially you know how Khamzat is. You can't give him the runaround if you know you want to pull the rug last minute type shit. But TJ saying that, right, about Khamzat, he almost dying and shit like that. Now, fast forward to present day, June 1st on a Monday. Now we're hearing that Ilya Topuria, he has a huge weight cut. And it begs the question, because I've seen a couple posts comparing Ilya Topuria to Khamzat. Will this actually affect Topuria? Like, is now we're going to see Ilya Topuria get crushed by Justin Gaethje because of what happened to Khamzat? Is this where we at with weight cutting? Where now we cutting too much weight, and now these niggas, we're at the point with the UFC level and competition where if you just a 10% off, or at least 1 or 2% off, you're going to get crushed. Like, at one point, dude, the UFC step in is like, look, we have to figure out in a more, and granted, to be quite honest, I put more blame on the fighters than I do the UFC. Because at the same time, you know your body as an athlete. You know your body more than anybody else. Even your nutritionist, even your coach, your trainer, whatever. You, as the individual, know your body more than anybody else. Because you're the one that's feeling the pain. You're the one, oh shit, I went too deep in that joint. You're the one that's, you know, that feels everything that goes on with your body, positive or negative. So I do put some responsibility on the fighters, because at the end of the day, you got to know your limit. Obviously, you can trick your body and your mind to push the limit even further past beyond. But you, the individual, know the limits of your body. So majority of the blame goes to the fighters. But the UFC, their policy, it's like the UFC as a brand, they don't have no true efficient policy for the sport. And niggas talk about fighter safety and all this. This is why, you know, some rules are in place in some of these fight events and shit like that, just for fighter safety. Or some of these refs, you know, they stop the fight when we call early stoppage. They stop the fight too soon, but that's because they even though that we're pissed or we mad about the early stoppages, they're looking out for the fighters. But when it comes to this shit, this is why the UFC, honestly, out of any MMA promotion, and I actually did look this up. I looked at a couple articles from like a couple years ago and shit like that. But the UFC has the most missed weight cuts out of any MMA promotion. And that's because the UFC don't have a good, they're not efficient and they don't enforce the rule. How can I say this? They don't have an efficient rule enforced for weight cutting. It's just free reign. So, and shout out to my mans, like I said a couple weeks ago, it was either last week or a couple weeks ago, I told him in a personal message, I'm like, out of everybody in the UFC, the weight records that came out, last year, it was only like, 5 to 7 niggas that actually fought at a natural weight class. And 2 of them being more notable is Yuri Prohaska and Kobe Covington. The fact that only 5 to 7 people out of the whole UFC brand and roster, only 5 to 7 fighters is fighting a natural weight class, that's bad. That's telling me that the UFC is not they don't have an efficient, or they're not enforcing a rule on weight cutting, and that's on them. So it's more like, to me, it's like 70% on the fighters, 30% on the UFC. Because if the UFC has a strict rule, or they enforce some type of insurance rule on weight cutting, that will eliminate at least about half of the problems. Now, you're still going to have some dumbass athletes who think they know everything, that's still going to try to push the limit and try to work around shit, and sometimes it's going to backfire on them. But if the UFC had a more efficient, strict rule on weight cutting, that would save their ass from when the athlete fuck up. You know what I mean? So I just want to speak on this a little bit, because I am picking Ilya Topuria to beat Justin Gaethje, because on a stylistic matchup. Honestly, I have my own analysis, but to be quite honest, I forgot who said it, bro. I think it was Dustin Poirier. Stylistically, Justin Gaethje, he gonna get pieced the fuck up against Ilya Topuria. That's not a good stylistic matchup. Especially, and we all know how MMA logic is. I know, trust me. I've been watching the UFC since 2007, 2008. I know how MMA math and logic works. But there's just certain fighters where they defy everything, bro. Everything that you know about MMA, there's certain fighters that's just so damn good and just so damn smart, and they just have everything to where the point to where they just defy everything you knew about MMA, you know. But I just wanted to speak on this because we cannot, if Ilya lose to Justin Gaethje, we cannot give that weight cut excuse to Ilya Topuria. If Ilya loses against Justin Gaethje, it's because Justin Gaethje found a way to solve the Ilya Topuria problem. Or he just probably, if they exchange in the pocket, as I always say, because some of these fighters, some of these fights do plan out to be the same. If they exchange in the pocket, Justin Gaethje got enough power to where he could counter Ilya and he could hurt Ilya. But at the same time, if Ilya does lose, once again, I want to reiterate, I don't want to give him the excuse of he had a bad weight cut. So, that's pretty much it on that. And I guess we're gonna continue to be talking about this for years and years, and I'm gonna say the same shit over and over until we legit find a way to cut down on the bad weight cuts. Because eventually, bruh, like Cameron Smotherman, like the nigga fainted his last fight. The nigga fainted on a damn scale, walking from the scale. Then, you know, last summer we had fucking Macy Barber had a damn seizure backstage like 5 minutes before they supposed to walk out. So it's gonna come to a point where we actually gonna have a death on the UFC hands. Now, MMA weight cutting deaths usually happens on lower tier MMA organizations and on the amateur scene, but we haven't seen, at least I've been living and watching, we haven't seen a UFC death of weight cut just yet. But at the rate we going, I mean, unfortunately, we're going to get there. And it may be just because I'm now starting to do, you know, the past couple years, I've been recording my thoughts and opinions and my analytical thoughts on camera into a podcast form. So maybe I'm paying attention to more than ever, because usually, you know, back then when I was just a regular fan, I was still analytical, but I would just watch fights for the entertainment and shit like that. You know, and as I got older and got more mature, that's when I really started to like analytically break down shit and how, you know, techniques and MMA IQ and all the other shit. But I will say, since I've been doing, you know, recording my voice and all this other shit on camera for podcasting material and content, I've been paying attention more and more, and it seemed like more than ever. Now, somebody in the comments correct me if I'm wrong, especially my followers that are older, that have been watching the UFC, you know, when I was like very little, like the 90s, early 2000s. But it seemed like more and more than ever in the past, 3 to 4 years, we've had more missed weight cuts in the UFC than ever before. And we're going to get to that point where niggas is going to fuck up super bad to where either end their career or they or they die from it. And we don't want nobody dying from anything. I wouldn't wish death on my worst enemy or some people, in my inner circle that I had to cut off, that I no longer talk to. I wouldn't wish death on them, no way. So, UFC, y'all gotta get better. Oh shit, here come the water and shit. UFC, y'all gotta get better in this shit. Y'all hear this shit? I know y'all hear it. And I'm on the other side too. But, UFC, y'all gotta get better with this shit. Hopefully y'all do get better. And until my next video, which is either tomorrow or Wednesday, it's your boy DHP. See y'all niggas in the next video, man.